several studies have been done over the last 2-3 years that show that if you spend a lot of time on the internet or on the screen, actually damages the brain. And they've shown several areas where you have brain damage. The areas are the front part of the brain that's responsible for prioritizing, organizing, planning, and then performing executive function. There's also the part of the brain that's responsible for rewarding you. When you do something that is fun, like when you play a game for a while, the brain releases chemicals that make you feel good. It's called a reward. So when you're addicted to something, basically it gets you rewarded each time you do it. And so there's impairments in that area. One of the most disturbing things that they've noticed is there's a part of the human brain called the insula, responsible for having sympathy, compassion, and empathy. And there's a problem there. So all these findings point towards the tendency for people to have more violent behavior. And also there's a part of the brain that is responsible for inhibiting you from doing something that is socially unacceptable. So it's said that the worry is that the more people spend time on their phones or looking at screens, the more these things will come out and we'll have a more disconnected society.
So hold up. So this addiction is basically making us less smart.
Yes.
Making us antisocial.
Yes.
Borderline violent.
Yes.
Wow.
Those are the findings. Several studies have been done. They've done imaging on the brain. They've shown that some of the brain areas actually shrink in people who are addicted to devices and internet.
So a smartphone isn't that smart then?
When you have a smartphone, it makes you less smart. It does everything for you. Maybe.
Okay, I mean, with other addictions then, there's obviously cases of denial, not recognizing that there is even an addiction. Is that the same case with screen addiction?
Yes, most people don't recognize it, and most people don't think it's a problem because it's okay to have your phone. But if you've realized these days, you can go to a function. I've been to dinners where everybody around the table is not talking. Everybody's just on their phone. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So people actually spend more time on their phones than they do, and we are losing that human interaction. There's always a computer interface. People prefer to talk through a platform, and there's something called the Facebook depression. They've noticed, neuropsychiatrists have noticed that children who spend so much time on Facebook later have a form of depression.
Wow.
So it's a problem that has been noticed, and it's expected to get worse because there are going to be more smart devices.
Yeah. And
people are going to have less physical human interaction.
So how would you go about diagnosing this addiction then? Because obviously it seems to be very common. And considering, let's just say, hypothetical, about 80% of the world has a phone. So are we all addicted, or is it just a case of filtering the few that are actually really addicted?
Well, currently it's still a gray area in medicine, and it's one of we have in our diagnosis manual, the latest one that came out, they put it in an area that requires further research. So we don't have a criteria for diagnosing it. But if you find someone who is always on their screen, and sometimes it impairs performance at work. Employers have to be checking their employees always on some social media or the other. Sometimes people are crossing the street and they're on their phone. Most of the young people outside drive and stay on their phone. So these are the things that point that somebody may be addicted. They go to bed with their phone. At every gathering, they're on their phone. They don't want to interact with the family. When there's a family meeting, every function they go, they don't want to talk to anyone. They just stay on their phones, reading on the internet or doing something, Instagram, Facebooking, something like that. And that's one of the things that points out. But we don't have a defined criteria for diagnosing internet addiction disorder currently. But
okay, would age play a large part in this then? Because for the reasons why one person would use a device and another may vary. So, I mean, obviously the older people may be using it for, I hope, more intelligent means. The younger ones may be more recreational. But would the addiction still be the same, regardless of age?
I think that the addiction is more in the younger population than the older generation, where their time they had more physical interaction with people. And the older people that I've come across, most have smartphones, but they don't spend too much time on their phones. They like real human interaction. But the younger ones come in, that's the order of the day, either music or doing some videos or doing one of those social things. Always one of those things, and they spend so much time on their devices. And also one of the things that lets you know someone is addicted is that they cannot be fine when they lose their device. It's like they have a withdrawal symptoms. It's crazy. They go really, really, really off. and you can tell they need their device back. They will do anything to get the device back.
Wow. How do we go about curing or getting people out of this addiction phase?
Well, like I said, it's still a gray area, and so we've not laid down even diagnosing it and going to solve it. But right now, I think that creating awareness is the way. And somebody told me that this whole doom saw has brought something good, because now people actually migrate from their homes to other places when they don't have light to stay with friends. And when your device is out, you start talking to people. Yeah. So we need to get back to that point where people actually do proper social gathering, not in a virtual space, and that's and then creating awareness that the more time we spend, it's actually more significant among the children, because children still have got developing brains, and they talk about sensory overload. Children spending more than 7 hours a day watching a screen, and it can be the TV, their tablet device, or the phone device, and these things cause damage to the brain. So parents have to be aware and try and cut down or regulate the amount of time they clock on the devices. And it's when we culture them in that manner, then they can grow up with it. Yeah. And then when people have got more physical activities to do, they tend to do less gaming and less screen stuff. Okay.
So, I mean, there are probably some young parents out there who, to keep their children quiet, they may put them in front of the television, put on a video or a tape that the children like a lot. So in doing so, in trying to entertain your child, or even just, have a few minutes of peace, we could be doing something detrimental to their health.
Oh, yes. This finding came out, I think, about 6 years ago, so that parents want to get rid of their children from disturbing them. They glue them to the TV screen, and they can stay there, not bother you, damaging their brains, and even it's shown to damage some of the eye in a particular way. Studies came out a long time ago. So parents need to be careful how they play this, and that children need more physical interaction. You don't have to let your child grow under the TV. They need to have real human contact. And I think this is the way forward, that we try and build relationships outside the virtual platform. And then people should get into organizations that do actual stuff, join maybe church something, or one of the clubs, maybe Rotary, go out there, meet people for real, and spend less time. It's something that there's so much stuff you can read, like there's so many sites, 20 top celebrities who did that. People spend so much time on the Instagram, the Facebook, the Twitter, and maybe take some time off these things, because sometimes when you let that impair your actual day-to-day activities, your work, your school, and even professional musicians have come outside to say that their careers took a bumpy ride because they couldn't focus. They're always on their phone. And stuff like that. So to do something small, come back to their phone.
Okay, now you mentioned about eyesight. Obviously, being in front of a screen for long periods of time could affect the eyesight. Are there any other physical ailments that could come about from screen addiction?
Well, basically, the number one is more of neural stuff, and that can lead to other things too. So far so good. We've not had any physical thing that can, aside damage to the eye, damage to the brain, that we've already seen.
That's enough, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is huge.
All right. Dr. Rado, I want to thank you so much for coming in this morning and teaching us about screen addiction. And if you are displaying traits of any kind of addiction in regards to your screen, then please try and step away from it a little bit. Although we love you watching the show daily, sometimes you need to take a break also.